We are in Siliguri, which is the BJP's stronghold. North Bengal actually is the BJP's stronghold. If I give you an example, in the last election in North Bengal, BJP's strike rate was more than 60%, almost 60%, whereas the BJP's strike rate in the rest of the state was less than 20%. That's how strong the BJP is here. And to lead the BJP and its campaign here, we have Harsh Shringla, former Foreign Secretary, now Rajya Sabha member from the BJP, and a wonderful human being. Harsh, wonderful to see you here and catch you in your new home in Siliguri. I can see
Thank
that
you,
the
sir.
home is still coming up.
It is in a part of Siliguri which is still being developed.
Yes, yes.
But we're happy to be here.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to be in the stronghold, as you call it, sir. Of course, I can't say I'm leading the campaign. I'm a Karyakarta. I'm one of the people who are working as part of the team in North Bengal, but we're very happy to be here.
So why is your party so strong in North Bengal?
Well, I think traditionally North Bengal has, as you pointed out, been supportive of the BJP. One of the reasons for that also could be a very heterogeneous mix of communities that we have here. And we have here almost, a number of communities that are, in many senses, both traditional and migrant communities. We have the Bengali community, of course. We have the Rajbangshi community. We have
Rajvanshis are scheduled castes here.
Rajbangshis, yes, they basically were, in some senses, original inhabitants of the
Yes.
Alipur, the Duars, the plains of Siliguri. You have the Nepali community, the Gorkha community. You've got Hindi-speaking communities, which are quite prominent in this part of our state. So you've got a mix of communities.
Because you are right next to Bihar.
Exactly.
In fact,
Bihar, Assam, and so from that point of view, it's also at the international crossroads, because you've got if you 10 kilometers down is Bangladesh, 10 kilometers on the west is Nepal, on the east is Bhutan. So we are in close proximity to three different countries.
And just over 100 kilometers is 130 into China, into Tibet.
Absolutely. So if you go further north, you have the fourth country with whom we share a border.
Right. And also, Siliguri itself is a transit town, because to go from India anywhere in the northeast, you have to go past Siliguri.
It's the crossroads.
It's a crossroads.
And it's also the gateway, as we say, to our northeast. It's in many senses a place where people prefer to even travel into Nepal and Bhutan and Bangladesh, but certainly to North Bihar, West Assam. Bagdogra Airport and Jalpaiguri Railway Station are the points for a number of places around the Siliguri junction.
So, what are the issues in this year's election?
Well, the issues really are those relating to development. We're in a state, which is my state, West Bengal, which has gone from being the most industrialized state in our country to the least industrialized. A state where people used to come in search of employment, we now have people of the state having to leave the state to get employment. I mean, a good part of our youth has gone out in the search of employment. There has been hardly any development, not only in the last 15 years, the last 50 years, I would say. So it is time now, I think, to bring our state into the mainstream of our country, to join the fast growth rate, the advantages of an industrialized, digitalized India, give our youth the opportunities which today they lack, remove blatant corruption, nepotism, which is very much a part of the governing structure of the state, and also I would say, level of insecurity that people experience. Women experience insecurity living in their own homes. You have this serious problem of infiltration, because we are at a point where infiltration is one of the places where there's a lot of infiltration. There's also a sensitive zone in our country, given the the Siliguri corridor is also a very narrow point between international borders in our country. And of course, the problems that are relating to this entire, what we call a Gunda Raj, mafia culture, syndicate culture, the collection of haftas and money from businesses, from
Is
anything that
is
is.
is polarization an issue? Because in West Bengal, polarization is a very strong issue in general. How strong is it in North Bengal?
Well, polarization is, I would say, something that um, is evident in certain areas where we've seen, certain communities and certain, I would say, criminal syndicates asserting themselves against the common man. We've seen it in Murshidabad. We've seen it in Malda. We had situations there which have been very serious. You had the honorable governor himself having to go there and personally look at these situations, and those are areas where polarization is created because of these developments. I think if the state is well administered, well governed, and you have a government that is for the people of the state, I think this sort of polarization will evaporate. We will have a far better society under which we
In
work.
your campaign, are you using polarization, Hindu Muslim?
If you've seen the Prime Minister's, let's say, delivery, wherever he is, he's talked about the change that a BJP government can bring to Bengal. If you've seen the Sankalp Patra, which is the manifesto of the party, for which in North Bengal we did this press conference, it is all about a constructive approach that brings in positive change. So we are addressing the positives. We are not looking at it from a negative perspective. We believe that positive change itself is enough to root out the negatives. As I said, the corruption, nepotism, infiltration, issues that are serious concerns can be addressed with good governance, with sensitivity towards governing, or rather looking after the well-being and serving the people of our state.
So Bengal happens to be BJP's stronghold, but now we are also seeing that Trinamool Congress is making a very focused push, especially among the tea garden workers, promising them more wages and stuff. So how is the BJP countering it? What is BJP's strategy to take on Trinamool?
Well, first and foremost, tea garden workers account for a significant percentage of the population in the hills and in the Dors and the plains. They themselves are aware that any lack of development and opportunities and facilities in their lives have been due to a remarkable lack of delivery by the TMC government, which is the current government in West Bengal. I raised the issue of the daily wages of tea garden workers in West Bengal. And I pointed out that tea garden workers have a minimum wage of 250 rupees here, whereas in the Brahmaputra Valley in Assam, right next door, it is 280 rupees. In Tamil Nadu, it is 425 rupees. And in Kerala, the same tea garden worker gets 540 rupees. So this disparity in minimum wages is very difficult to explain. The tea garden worker today has difficulty making ends meet. Forget about educating his children, providing healthcare benefits. All those facilities that existed before are eroding before our eyes. The plight of our tea garden workers today is absolutely miserable. And a lot of the work that I do through my foundation is linked to the providing alternative livelihoods for tea garden workers. We work with women's self-help groups. But that also enables me to travel to these tea estates, see their situation. And I think many tea estates are closed. The state government has done nothing about it. But they have used tea estates in collusion with the owners of tea estates to give them land rights. You develop 25 to 30% of your tea garden for tourism and to build hotels. And so you have acquired this garden at a throwaway rate, and you use that property to develop incomes through tourism, which has nothing to do with the tea industry. So you've neglected the tea industry. You've tried to give them a way to make money, which is outside of your original understanding, because these are all agricultural lands. The tea garden worker who's worked there his entire life, his father has worked there, his grandfather has worked there, so he's worked for generations, has no rights on a land in which he has lived for maybe as long as 200 years since the British started tea cultivation in this part of our country. So there is an injustice here that the TMC government has failed to address. If you see the manifesto of the BJP, there is an entire section devoted to tea, a significant section. But how old tea gardens will be rejuvenated, because these bushes, nobody is investing in the rejuvenation of bushes. How the government will promote Darjeeling tea as a global brand. How the government will create tea tourism and make this an ecotourism hub. How it will develop research infrastructure for tea in these gardens. How we will support small tea growers, which is a very significant part of the tea industry. So all of this is very carefully thought through. The sort of solutions that the BJP is offering makes it a very credible successor now to usher in that change that we've been talking about. Parivartan is fine, but what is it based on? Today, this manifesto gives us a real substantive reason for change. It says this is what we will do if we come in. You hold us to account. You tell us whether we are doing this or not. So for the tea worker, for the tea industry that you mentioned, I think the government has a plan, or rather the party has a plan, which is very, very elaborate and which I think addresses comprehensively the concerns of our tea garden laborers.
So the manifesto also talks of lot of freebies. It's like your freebie versus my freebie. TMC's 1,500 rupees Lokhi Bandar versus BJP's 3,000 rupees for women. TMC's 1,500 unemployment allowance versus BJP's 3,000 rupees unemployment allowance. So how do you see this competitive?
No, I don't know whether it's competitive. What is important is that we need to ensure that there is inclusive development. We need to ensure that the poorest and the most underprivileged sections of our state, which is one of the most underprivileged states in our country, is looked after. That is the first priority. Women have been marginalized, have been victimized under the TMC government. Today, there is an opportunity to give women their due. A 3,000 grant is for them to ensure that their families get proper education, they're able to look after themselves. We believe that money in the hands of women is a far more responsible way of ensuring inclusive development than giving it in general.
See, all exit poll data tells us that Mamata Banerjee gets a very high percentage of the female vote. And that's the reason that BJP's formula of crossing 50% of the Hindu vote and election is theirs. That doesn't work. In West Bengal, they need 60%. And that is not happening because women stay with Mamata Banerjee. You think this time there's any chance of them or enough of them crossing over?
I think
Because
women,
their loyalty is very strong.
no, there's no doubt that the vote of women in Bengal is very important, because the position of women and the status of women in Bengal is different from other states. Ma Durga, Ma Kali, everybody looks up to the concept of the woman. The woman has a strong place in Bengal. So whether it is TMC or the BJP or any other party, the significance of women is important in Bengal. Now, what the BJP is essentially doing is setting a historic injustice right. What are we doing? We are providing security. We are talking about Durga Surokha squads, which is basically women-led policing in urban areas. We are talking about at least one police station in every block of Bengal. We're talking about women's hostels. We're talking about a woman who has the opportunity to graduate. If you are going for graduation, you get a grant of 50,000 rupees. I think that's a very good thing, because women traditionally haven't been given that opportunity in terms of, I would say equal opportunity. So you are a bright woman, you want to go for graduation, the government's supporting you. You're talking about, women having a place in decision making by providing 33% of government jobs reserved for women. We're talking about a 33% reservation for women in the West Bengal government. That's an important thing, because you're not talking just about political representation that we're trying to bring in parliament. We're talking about the fact that even in the government of West Bengal, we will ensure 33% are women employees. And I think that as someone who's been in government myself, I think that's a great step forward. So the BJP, Prime Minister Modi, has a very strong sense that women in our country in general and the women in Bengal in particular should be given every opportunity, and the manifesto reflects that thinking.
Moushumi, you've been traveling in the rest of the state. What mood do you see among women?
So, women, when I mean, in North Bengal, for instance, when I was there, and from there I moved on to Malda and Murshidabad. So, women, when you ask them about, the political mood and I mean, what is it that they have got in the 15 years? One thing that you will, see most of them talking about is Lokhi Bhandar. So, though it was introduced, it was launched in 2021. So Lokhi Bhandar and the house that has been given by the state government, the money to build a house. So, but having said that, in many of the districts that I have gone to, they are saying that, women's safety is an issue. Women have heard of a Sandesh Khali or a RG Kaur. But they say that Mamata Banerjee, Didi is good. I mean, Didi's people, which I heard in 2019 also, that Didi's people are not good, but Didi continues to be, quite popular among the young women voters. They would tell you about the need for change and everything, but in the end, they cap it with the thing that Didi bhalo manush.
Yeah, I mean, look, the point is not about individuals. The point is about systems that are going to be in place that will look after the benefits of women in Bengal. What the BJP is talking about is a comprehensive overview of the way women are. So you talked about security or the lack of security. That is something that a BJP government will redress. Even in terms of Lokhi Bhandar is basically a grant, and they have the Trinamool has started by giving this thing, and I think, as I said, this is a good way to ensure inclusive development. So what the BJP is saying is that if you have us in government, we will pay
Double.
a better
Double.
let's say package, and that's also because of better fiscal management. You see, let's face the fact that the state government's management of its finances have been abysmal. A lot of the money has gone into these scams, the education scam, the teacher scam, a scam in the Manrega policy, or the Viksit Bharat Ji Ramji, as we call it. Now, the fact, and of course, massive amount of corruption, and also money going in for those areas that represent vote banks with the TMC. Now, if you have a government in place and you can manage the finances properly, you can provide much better overall development for the
I
people.
can see that you are very diplomatic when you say vote banks of the BJP,
I said vote banks of the TMC.
of the TMC, sorry.
Yes.
Sorry.
I mean, of course, the TMC has a certain preference, and that's where the money is going. I mean, I believe 9,000 crores is allocated to, 80% or more, the budget goes to, the South Bengal, whereas, and certain parts of that state, whereas, and so much of this is going for purposes that really, as a secular country, in a democracy, we should not be pandering to theocratic interests. And this is, I think, where we are going wrong. We are pandering to certain communities on the basis of a vote bank. And again, I mean, I think when we talk about a uniform civil code, etc., we want to ensure that all communities are equal before law. All communities are provided the same, I would say, facilities or benefits or rule of
There's
law.
a question I want to ask you. You were High Commissioner in Bangladesh. Over the past 10, 15 years, under Hasina, Bangladesh economy has done very well. For at least a year, Bangladesh per capita GDP was higher than ours. Overall inequality in Bangladesh is less, simply because they don't have very big businesses or the very rich people. Compared to West Bengal and Assam, Bangladesh has much higher standards of living, much higher levels of income. Why would people be infiltrating now into Bengal or Assam? I'm just raising a question.
So, one of the things, just to continue what we talked about, the Uniform Civil Code, Bangladesh, even though it is in its constitution, has this thing about being an Islamic, constitution or a country.
No,
It's both secular and
no.
the word
They say Islam.
Islamic Republic is used.
No, they don't call themselves Islamic Republic. They say Islam is the is the religion of something.
No, yes.
They walked around it.
So it has both.
Yes.
But there is a certain recognition that 90% of the population
Yes.
are Muslim.
Yes.
And yet, you have a uniform code. You don't have a code that distinguishes between different communities. And that uniform code is a fairly modernized version of a code.
But
of
the
civil
fact that
code.
India doesn't have it can't be the reason why Bangladeshis would leave their homes and come
No,
to
so that's
West
another
Bengal
part
and
of the
Assam.
question. Essentially, if you go just across the border, go to Panchagad, you will find that there are hardly anything that people can base their livelihoods on. There's hardly anything that gives them sustenance. Now, there has been development, but let's face it, the areas around our borders are the least developed parts of the country. Development has been around Dhaka, around cosmopolitan areas, but we are facing the situation where huge influx of people are coming in, being allowed to settle with the connivance of the TMC. They settle their families, they travel to other parts of the country, they get an Aadhaar card. See the statistics. Uttar Dinajpur, Dakshin Dinajpur, Malda, Murshidabad, right down, you will find that Aadhaar cards that have been issued by the state government, the state government administers the Aadhaar, let's say, issuance, has been at 110 to 125% of the population, which means that you're giving far more Aadhaar cards than the entire population of that district. So that shows that there is a complicity here, which really involves getting in people from extremely, let's say, poor and impoverished backgrounds in the border areas. You have to really travel across to see what the situation is. Avail of free rations. 800 million people in our country are getting free rations. Avail of Aadhaar card and all the benefits of your guaranteed work, your benefits that you get as an Indian citizen. But I think what it does really is also encourages cross-border crime. Crime is in terms of drug smuggling, in terms of human smuggling, let's say human trafficking, in terms of counterfeit currency, also cattle smuggling, which is very rampant. That is having an impact on our society. It is having an impact on the security of our state. I mean, I'm talking about the state as the entire country, in a point that is very, very strategically significant and sensitive, at a point that is there, where we are. And I think this is something that we need to really think about. I mean, at a strategic and security level, we need to take this in hand. Either the TMC government does not indulge in activity that are anti-national in nature for their own political, let's say, interests, or the center has to do something about it. And today, I think the people of Bengal have the opportunity to set that record straight.
Sir, another issue that has dominated the poll discourse this time is the SIR of electoral rolls. Wherever I had gone, I have spoken to people, and there is a lot of anger about the way the SIR process has been, executed. Also, there has been a delay in setting up the tribunals. Critics say that because of that, it has led to disenfranchisement of some 27 lakh people. So, what is your assessment of the way SIR has been done? How do you see it?
See, I'll tell you, as an ordinary citizen, when I vote, I want my vote to count. I don't want it to be vitiated by votes that are false votes, people who shouldn't be voting in my area. I told you about the Aadhaar card instance. 110 to 125% more than the population of particular areas have got Aadhaar cards, which means that there is a connivance between the TMC and the system to bring in false voters. As a citizen, I want such false voters to be removed from the list. The Election Commission of India has taken a very good initiative to do this, not only in Bengal, but in Tamil Nadu and UP and many other states. Tamil Nadu, the number of deletions have been much more than Bengal. But we haven't heard. It's only Bengal that's growing, shouting the rooftops about this injustice. And that's because they have the most to lose. TMC has the most to lose in this process, and which is why they're very unhappy. And let me tell you one more thing about this 27 lakh people who on that list. The scrutiny of that list and the decision to have them on the voters list or not is left to officials of the state government. It is the BDO and the SDO who is scrutinizing all these lists and going through it. So if people are unhappy, they should direct their ire to the state government. The party and the central government has nothing to do with this exercise. And as a citizen, I'm very happy that here is an objective process through which you are either removed from the list because you don't exist, you know, such names are not there, you don't belong to the place, etc. Or there is a bit of doubt, there are discrepancies, in which case you can go and sort this out through the state government machinery, which has been absolutely lacking. This is also an excuse to blame this on the BJP. The entire process has been delayed because of this, deliberately delayed. This is like the LPG. When the Prime Minister was coming to Kolkata, to the brigade grounds for that historic rally in which we saw 6 or 8 lakh people, the sort of change, the sort of turnout that we only saw in 2009 when the CPM gave way to Trinamool Congress, at that time, this entire shortage of LPG was being touted and there was blaming the central government saying there's a huge shortage of LPG. And central agencies at that time were very quick to act. They rushed in the LPG and that situation is contained. But that was deliberately created. So the state government, the TMC, is deliberately creating situations that act on the emotive impulses of people. And this is another example of the SIR process which is being deliberately vitiated by the state in order to blame the center and get all of these people who are on that list and whose redressal has not been quickly done, to blame the central government and to blame the ruling party in our country for this. Whereas it is their connivance all along that has led to this situation.
So Harsh, the final question. How are you enjoying your transformation from being a diplomat to a politician?
I love this. For me, it's been a great journey of learning. I'm really learning a lot in politics. But I've always wanted to, in a certain sense, serve the people of my area.
Because in diplomacy, you have to be very discreet always. Do you feel freer in politics? Can you afford to be less discreet?
I have to say you hit the nail on the head. I think that is the real difference. For a change, you can take off your tie. You can go and essentially articulate your views in whichever way you feel is correct. There's a great deal of freedom, and also the space is large. You can delve. We've been talking about everything. If I was a diplomat, I'd be confined to not only that diplomacy, but that part of diplomacy that I deal with, and I can't go beyond that. So your state jacket is removed. You can do what you want. But for me, more importantly, I've always wanted to come back and serve the people of my country and my part of the country, which has taken me where I have had the opportunity to go. Today is time to give back. And I hope to be able to do it.
Is the Gorkha issue over?
No, I think that sentiment is very much there. And if you see even our manifesto, it talks about a permanent political solution. And Prime Minister Modi has said, Gorkha ka sapna, hamara sapna. So that Gorkha identity issue is there as long as the state government, as long as the Trinamool Congress, the TMC continues to treat the people of the hills as second-class citizens, that issue will be alive. And the sentiment of the people in the hills will be one of grievance. It will need a change, it will need a government that is sensitive to the interests of the Gorkhas that will bring the change that is necessary. And I believe the only one that can do it is Prime Minister Modi and the BJP.
And between diplomacy and politics, I can see we sit right under a big picture of you with Donald Trump.
And Prime Minister Modi.
Prime Minister Modi, a letter signed by Donald Trump and Prime Minister Modi on the other side. So both sides of your life. Is that picture from your political life or
no?
Diplomatic life.
That is diplomatic
with
life.
Mr. Modi.
Yeah, and actually, there are pictures of different experiences, including, as you can see, Sheikh Hasina and the Pope as well who were there.
Right.
But yeah, this is memorabilia.
I wanted to ask one last question. So you had recently proposed setting up this Northeast Corridor Development Economic Corporation Directorate for the North Bengal.
I wrote to the finance minister proposing, if you look at the Northeast Council, you have the entire Northeast and you have Sikkim. But it's not contiguous. It's not contiguous because North Bengal is not there. I'm saying make it contiguous.
Yes.
There's nothing that separates us from Sikkim or the Northeast. Geographically, ethnically in terms of underdevelopment, and you should make it a part of that. Apparently, you cannot because we are part of a state that does not want to be a part of the Northeast Council. So this is another problem. If you want change, you have to bring in the change. And my submission to our people in the hills, our people in Bengal is bring the change that you want
And
to.
the ethnic and linguistic linkages between Darjeeling and Sikkim are very strong.
Well, absolutely, because it's the same language that's spoken,
Yes.
same communities that are across the border. When I stand in Chaurasta in Darjeeling and I look across, the next hill is Sikkim. So what distinguishes me from Sikkim? And Sikkim today is a highly developed state. It's a prosperous state because it is getting all the benefits of a state and is a part of the Northeast Council. And Darjeeling is getting absolutely zero benefit. And that's happened for decades. So that issue has to be addressed. It's an issue that rankles. I mean, responding to your question.
All right, so we'll let you go back to politics again.
Oh, thank you so much, sir. Thanks a lot, Moushumi.
And thank you very much for finding this time. I know that you have many more important things to do.